Alafia, greetings, and Hotep, welcome, welcome, welcome. You've got your Omega 7 and tribe coming to you from Omi's production studio. Once again, I'd like to say hello, hello. And we're going to put you on hold there for a minute and see if we can get things going over here. If you don't mind, we are hooking up, going live here. So give me a little time to get things going, just a little bit here. And I'd like to say, how's everyone doing this evening? How is the African family? And how are the children? Thank you so very much. We are trying. We did not get that phone number. And it's very vital that we have that. Let me see if I got my marker here. Let's see. We gotta go, and I always forget to do that. Just wait for. We're going live in 2 different places. And we're counting down for our time on the air. So I like to say to those listening audience out there in YouTube, how's everyone doing? We are talking about the science of family. What is the nature of family, and what does it use for family members? Very important. It doesn't civilize the same way. And I want you to know, for the record, ladies and gentlemen, that Africa and reasoning as well. So it was Sandra who helped to make the foundations. Reasoning, it was, well, African philosophy and their reasoning. So people were going to Europe, that came from Europe, rather, were going to Africa, because Europe was not really in existence. It was Eurasia. And their learning and academians were not as well sought after. Once again, we're saying hello to the audience that is with us also at the Blog Talk radio station. Hello, Blog Talk radio station. How's everyone doing today? We're going to zoom you into the topic, and we're talking about the science, because without the family that are from the African race, and we're talking about the purpose of individual family members in the nuclear family. What is their purpose? Why do we need a family? Why is marriage and the institution so very, very vital to our survival, to communing and networking? It's very, very vital that we should have a concept. And community is what actually drives the force along with civilization, the universe, how to get along with the little animals, and even the makeup of the climate and the universe, and how to get along with ourselves. Now, when we bring it on home, we see getting along. Most people don't want to be married anymore. Most of the people that want to be married, they come out and say, I'm going to wait to get married. I have postponed marriage. I have taken my eggs and hibernated them for another time and season. Then maybe they'll still be ripe when I want to get married. Well, let me tell you the truth. It used to be a time that families assigned young ladies the designated and assign you to a person to marry. Yes, I know this because in our family with 11 girls, there had to be some gestation where the families intervene to speak into your lives and say, is this the one? And then they went to the other and said, why don't you? I'll give you her in marriage. Yes, it was done that way. I know this. I witnessed this. My family was giving me away. So marriage is honorable. And when you don't time, most of your family thinks something's wrong. Or they said you will never get married and you'll be a maiden. And you don't want to be an old maiden. Now, let me try to define what a nuclear family is. And I think I said this earlier, that civilization came up out of Arabia land, and that is a place that we used to call Africa. Someone gave that name to the continent, Africa, but it was not Africa. It was Arabia land, as a correction for a misnomer. And also to correct some of you that education came out of Africa. The high tutelage and the high academians and the high institutions were there in Africa. So as Europe was advancing themselves in medicine and languages, they were without the academia to train them. So they ventured over into Africa, into Timbuktu University. Yes, and it was available to anyone, even to the Europeans. Yes, they had the Europeans sitting up under them. We must remember that there were a few of African Americans who ventured out to teach Europeans, and they trained them. But when the Europeans went back to their homes, their families denied the teaching that they got. Hippocrates and Aristotle, who got all this information from Africans, how to live, how to socialize in a family, how to rear your children, explaining that the children had purpose, and each one of them were the caller to prayer. Did committing themselves to praying, then God would mark their children for prayer. And by way of handicapping their children, either be crippled, hunchback, blind, but they were marked for praise and worshiping if their fathers and mothers failed to worship God. Worshiping was very important. Now you see out on the screen there, it is very important for you to see on Blog Talk. I have some things there that you'll see the young men praying. And as a preparation for prayer, that the parents are supposed to teach the child to wash their hands, their face, and elbows before they greet God with faith. So if these parents did not pray or did not teach their children to pray, then their children were marked with handicaps. And that is the teaching of the Africans, that those who see that are blind, hunchback, crippled, they've been marked for prayer. And out on my Facebook, out on my YouTube, you can see the tools that they use for morning prayer, evening prayer. And there was also, each and every one of you African Americans, you are out of order if you have not dedicated your child back to God. But it's not too late. If they're still toddlers or infant, beyond the age of consent, you can still have a dedication ceremony and dedicate that child to God so that he won't be marked for any handicap. That's why we have so many handicapped children here today. They have not been marked. Children whose mothers are conscious, they take their child to be dedicated and they bring in a witness to witness that dedication and a godmother. And not only that, that child is also given a destination reading where they determine what is their destiny. And that destiny is read at that time. When that child is still yet an infant in the womb, he has purpose. He's not just to be in the nuclear family so you can titillate him, so you can scream at him, so you can treat him like a punching bag. He has purpose and aim, and his or her purpose and aim. And the main purpose is to be a caller to prayer, teaching him to pray in the right position in the morning. But I'm talking folk training within your circles. Within your circles, you have folk training. You have folk training, and it's very necessary that you understand what the purpose of a child is, because people think having sex is just for fun and enjoyment, but it's not only for that, it's for appropriation. And when a child is produced, that child has purpose and aim and destiny on this society and this earth. And you have to go to the Creator to find out, what is this child's purpose? What have I brought him in the world for? And how will he best serve God? Now, I want to say something. Right now, I'm going to have to see why I can't get called back in here. And sometimes they do this. So just bear with me. We have a little technical difficulty here. And if Blog Talk will get me back on here, this is my first time really using the Blog Talk where you actually call in with their phone. I'm so used to using my phone, but I'm sure you will bear with me. You two, straighten up and fly right, okay? Now, hold tight for 1 minute. See, this could go on for a while. Okay, how's everybody doing out there in YouTube? Oh boy. Let's see. Okay, I tell you what, we'll just get and finish recording here. Once again, I'd like to say thank you so very much for joining me this evening. And you two, you've been so gracious. We're talking about the science of family. Just what is the purpose of family? And what are the identified responsibilities of individuals in the family, such as mother, father, brother, sister? And we're just talking about the nuclear family now. We're not talking about auntie, grandma, and we're not talking about nephew. So the nuclear family was created right out of Africa. And the nuclear family that was created was socialized around folk medicine, folk education. There were no doctors for the African at the clinic, so their doctors had to be homegrown right in their villages, and their teachers also. But mainly there was a way of socializing that everybody taught in a folklore method. So when you left home, you knew the code, you knew the appropriate code and the standard. It wasn't guessing about how you're supposed to behave or what you're supposed to do. These things were taught in a socialization circle format. And usually the eldest person in the village was the leader. Nothing was done or said or decided upon until someone went to the actual leader. And the leader, these directions, because of their youth and their length of time of being on this earth, they kept a memory bank of all the information and cataloged it and filed it away. And it was an oral lifestyle and teaching. So they had the Cossack records hidden away as to how you were supposed to socialize yourself. How was a girl supposed to act in the presence of a male? How was a male supposed to act in the presence of a female? What are the responsibilities of these young youth around the house? Are they a tiller of soil? Do they go out and plant the seeds, or do they go out to hunt? What is the nature? You wouldn't find a man with an apron on in the kitchen cooking and preparing food. That was not the order of things, and that was not how they socialized their boys. Their boys had to have a rites of passage, and they had to be groomed accordingly. But let's get back to the infantile stage when they're first born. It's very vital that you should understand that when they're first born, they must be given the opportunity to find their destiny. And if you look out on the desktop there, well, it was on the desktop with the Blog Talk, you can see that there was a process of doing an oracle divination reading to find out who was on their head for their father, who was on their head for their mother, and it would become a destiny reading, giving this child aim and purpose and destiny. Now, did the Europeans do this? No. Did the Hispanics do this? No. They all had different forms of socialization. So why then does everyone want us to socialize in one cultural way? It's not possible. And they're taking us away from our traditional way of life. There is no religion, but a way of life. A method that you use on a regular basis, which it becomes second nature and memory to you, so you can call upon those procedures at any time. There was a certain way they went hunting, a certain way that the food was prepared, and a certain ritual when a young boy turned a certain age, that it was now time for him to get ready to make his transition into his own hut. So you wouldn't find a young boy staying up under his mother because he was afraid to get his own hut. He knew that he had to go out and hunt for his own food, and he knew that he had to be socialized with other young boys so he can sharpen his edge and his tool. And we know only iron sharpens iron. So these procedures and rituals were done by the males in the family. So there was a protocol. Girls were expected to get married, have illiterate children, and be able to contribute back to the communal lifestyle. We've become obsolete, and people are storing their eggs for another lifetime. And then saying, well, I have not been proposed to, and they're not even in position to be a wife. You have to get in position to be a wife. Someone has to come a calling and know that you're available. But when you're all dressed up and ready to go to work, and you don't want anybody wooing you and whistling at you, and everything is considered as rape now. If I look at you the wrong way, oh, he wanted to rape me. See, we've got it all backwards, and we let people come in to African lives, and they're not reasoning with us on some of the shots that they're calling. We don't even have room for a man to court a woman anymore. And a woman has given herself up and shown and revealed everything to the point where the man can't even imagine anymore. He has to go and take a step beyond that. And don't mention going to bed with a man the first time you meet him. Now he's on the fox hunt. The fox hunt is over. It's done. It's kaput. So you can forget about him proposing for marriage. But we can't throw the baby out with the bath. We know marriage is honorable and the institution of marriage is honorable. And it's a good thing for a man to find a wife, not for a wife to find a man. Now let's get back to the responsibility. We know the boy has to have a rites of passage, and so does the young girl. Mothers produce lineage because they're trying to increase their legacy. These children will become an extension of them to work and to contribute and bring home substance and bring home filthy lucre to support the household while they're still underage. But once they turn a certain age, the age of consent, then they can go out, get their own hut, pass the rites of passage, and begin to harvest and to work for themselves. Mothers, you're keeping your children at home far too long. I know, because I did that with one of mine. It's important to carry them out by the hand and take them to their hut and say, see, it's just like the hut that we had back home. Now go in it and provide for yourself, and good luck. But no, we're so afraid if we release our children that the streets will get them. And sometimes they will. But you have to build them strong enough so that they can persevere through the streets and the hard times. Now, what does a father do? He goes out and makes a living. He makes sure that his wife is maintained mentally, morally, and spiritually. Is she okay? Does he need to sit and hold her hand and listen to all her stories? Does he need to take her out for a walk? Does he need to come home from his job and see about her? He has the responsibility of maintaining the spirituality of that woman. If she goes loco, then it's the husband's fault, because he should have saw in advance that her mental stability was on its way down to crashing. He has to maintain her. He gives her the thoughts. He suggests through his particular plan how she will fit in to working with the family. Yes, but she also has her own goals, but she puts the goals of her husband's plan first. So it will benefit the whole house, not just her selfish goals. Now, he also must give her love and affection. He must see her and not pretend that she's invisible. When he come home, he must actually see her and hear what she's actually saying. He must pay attention to her. Remember the old saying, I ain't paying no attention to you. We really aren't paying any attention to each other. But we've got to pay attention and focus on what's going on. At least lay eyeballs on a sister girl or lay eyeballs on your husband. Let him know he's there. Stroke him sometime. Hold his hand. Caress him like you want to be caressed. But we got to understand the purpose of a family. We got this thing all mixed up. And we're buying the commitment from our children. We want them to love us, so we buy our way into their lives. You don't have to buy your way into your children's life. Your children are supposed to love you unconditionally. You are the elder, and they're supposed to respect the words that you put into their conscious mind and hold on to them. Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. So you put the word in them and you lay it deep and frequently so they can call on these words. I'm a scripture buff. At one time, my children knew scripture and I read it so I could put it in their heart, so I could reprove them, and rather lifting up a rod against them. Sometimes the word can reprove a trial, and stories that you can tell to them. It doesn't always take a whipping or a beating. Don't beat your child all the time. Reason with your child, because they're little adults who one day won't take a whipping, but they'll give a whipping. And you wonder why he has violence in his nature when you use whipping for everything when things were out of order. Mothers, you're not always right. Be willing to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And allow the child to say they're sorry. And forgive the child and give them another chance. Every day is the beginning of a new day for them to start over. So we must love our children. Our children are brought here so that one day they can call us glory. They're brought here to give us enjoyment, not enjoyment where you have them in bed with you and you're titillating with them and you're having sex with them. Grown-ups don't have sex with children, in case you didn't know that. Grown-ups don't let anyone funnel their children or take their child to bed. The child is not a tool to be used. And so many of us are allowing our husbands and our boyfriends to titillate and sexually molest our children, thinking we're giving them something. You don't have the right to give a child back under sexual condition. You are responsible for keeping that child from hurt, harm, and danger. Do no harm to the child. Leave the child whole. So, as the young man grows, he gets his own hut. He provides for himself. He's carrying the family name. He must remember that that name belongs to the family, and that when he left that home, it had no marks against it. He must not bring the policeman to his family's home. He must not bring the law or distraction or fights or disharmony. He must not put any dirt on that name because he's carrying the family bloodline. He must uphold the family bloodline by keeping the name clean, by doing right. Do the right thing. And that must be driven in his head at all times. Even when he becomes an adult, you remind him that he's carrying the family name and that he cannot go out and do what he wants to do and bring shame upon the family. And vice versa for the young girl. You must drive this home to the young girl. She cannot go out and let everyone sex her up. Her body belongs to the Lord. And she can't say, it's my thing and I do what I want to do. No, it ain't your thing. They brought you into this world and they can take you out of this world. Now, we may not hear that too much in the white Caucasians community and family, but it's said frequently in the Black race. And it is not being meant to be literally. No, we're not going to kill anybody, but we're going to make them think we're going to have kill them and scare them to death so they won't do that thing that we told them not to do. Children don't have fear in them. They're saying, well, they ain't going to do nothing to me. They can't whoop me no more. They can't tell me what to do. I do what I want to do. See, you got to stop that little conversation from going on in their head and say, boy, I will get in your head and I will be Mr. Clean. You will think that somebody came in here and made you lose your mind because I have you walking backwards if you didn't know it. And you have to make them think you about ready to kill them. And they're like, whoo, I don't want what mama got to give because she about to kill me. I can't go. Y'all going by yourself because my mama going to come up there and she going to act a fool. That's right. Make them think you going to act a fool because I used to show up. And sometimes I had to calm down because I didn't want to show out. But I showed up to do a little observation in the classroom to see just what was going on. And they didn't know when you going to show up, but you did that to put fear in the child. A God-fearing child will live a long time on this earth. But if you make them think they can give you tit for tat, and they're talking back to you, if you're trying to reason with them, shut your mouth. You do not talk when your mama is telling you something or your daddy is telling you something. You got children that think they know more than their parents, and they're telling you what to do. My God, you ain't taking no whippings from no children, because they're going to make you cry many days if you let them get away with telling you what to do like they're your mama. You're going to be crying many days. But children can be valuable. They can call you glory, and they can raise up and advance the household and go out and do such good things in the community that people be coming back knocking on your door saying, Miss Gar, you raised a really mighty fine son. I am impressed with the way he carries himself and the things that he do. Where did he learn to do those things? And the scriptures that he quotes, how did you get him to memorize? See, when people come back to you, that is calling your son glory. You've done your job. And don't try to raise your child after he's got out of your sight. Now you've been absent all his life, and now all of a sudden you done woke up from the dead. Let me go to Junior's house because I need to talk to Junior. Junior ain't doing something. No, you don't. You need to let Junior figure it out for himself. If you didn't teach Junior that foundation, then maybe he needs to hit rock bottom so he'll learn it the hard way. But not all the time can you let him learn it the hard way. Sometimes you may have to pay him a phone call. Say, look here, Junior, I know you gonna get this thing together and you got it in you to do it. And I know you just haven't paid any attention, but I'm depending on you to go and address that problem. And hopefully next week it'll be all resolved. And then you'll call me and tell me about it, won't you? Yes, Mom. That way you ain't got to get in his business about the detail or telling him point for point what he needs to do. Because he's going to tell you, I ain't got to do nothing but stay black and die. Mom, I'm grown. I ain't in your house no more. I'm a man. I'm a man. See, you can diminish a man to being a little boy by telling him everything he has to do. Let him use his own brain and his own noggin. Let him be reminded that hurt and that bump upside his head, wasn't that enough to keep him thinking? You have to tell them, I raised you, and I raised you to be a thinker. Now I want you to put that thinking cap on and use your second wind and your mother will to figure things out. Force them to do what a grown-up will do. Now, speaking of these girls, you have to be very, very careful that a girl knows her nature. She's her daddy's pride and joy. And when she goes to look for a man, he better look something like or act something like her daddy if he was a good man. Now, I'm not talking about all the men that have messed up, but there are some good ones out there. And they can be a better man. I know that. But it's very vital that you should explain to your baby girl that right now, her attitude and her desire for a man must fit the description of her father. She cannot be out there laying with every man because he told her she was cute and he really thought she was fly. He's fly, she's fly, let's fly together. She got to be aware of the small talk and those who are out there to trip her up. You give her these foundations before she leave home so she won't be having a trip up every other week calling home, Ma, you better come and get me. I can't do this, Ma. I can't. What do you mean you can't? I'm about to knock the hell out of him because he been hitting me. Oh, okay. Then you step in and let your father take over, baby girl. You have to understand what a nuclear is. It's not what those Joneses over there doing because they white folk. And I don't care. Don't tell me we all the same. No, you are not all the same. Africans do not socialize the same way Europeans socialize in their household. Their children are telling them what to do. Mom, shut up, Mom. Mom, I said shut up, Mom. Mom, don't make me come over there. They're talking to their mother like they're insignificant. You are not a part of the Brady Bunch. And don't you ever forget it. And remind your children when they start acting like Baxter over there because he's been hanging out at Baxter's house. You pick up a shoe and flip it over there at him if you have to knock him down to the ground so he'll know when he come back to his senses, he can't act like the Brady Bunch family. No, we do not socialize the same way Europeans socialize. I'm sorry. We may have taught y'all how to socialize, but y'all have strayed away from it. And some of the teachings we've strayed away from too. We got to lift up a standard. And we got to understand that children are not to be hurt. They're put in the center of the circle and they're the prized possession. But you must raise them right so that they're not talking out the side of their mouth. To my, I wish she